Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Happy October. October the freaking 1st. How lucky do I get? it's time for Tea and Wild Thoughts. This is the beauty influencer, also known as Joy Taught Me. Good morning. Um, Thank you for shifting with me through all the changes and the growth in life. Thank you for being here. Good morning, my love. Good morning. So, if you have been here in the past, you know I'm going to get the vibe right. We got to do a little aromatherapy. It's a part of self care. So, I got my orange blossom incense and I'm going to do a little Palo Santo. And then we're going to go ahead and get started with good morning. Good morning with what is on my damn mind. I hope that everybody else is feeling very well this morning. And I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm also going to plug one of my products. Because that's what we do as good business owners, right? Sending you some good vibes. Energy clearing kit. So I'm on my last little piece of Palo Santo here. It's real small, real small. And so if you're into energy clearing, this is my energy clearing kit. I only have a few of these left because, as we know, Palo Santo is very endangered due to the Amazon. And so you'll see that pink salt that's down there in the bottom of that energy clearing kit. And this is what it turns into, guys. A saltwater cure that pulls all the negative energy out of the air. So we'll talk more about that. I'm drinking arrowroot this morning, which I also shared on my Joy Taught Me page, how to prepare that. Good morning, my love. And one thing I didn't tell was how to sweeten it. I use agave to sweeten mine. So, yeah, you can find that on the Joy Taught Me page. So, anywho, what's on my mind this morning, right? So, a little over a year of being here. I moved out of Charlotte and I'm feeling really, really good. It's like I think that a year mark, anytime you've done something new, it lets things like really kind of settle in and you get through all the bumps and bruises and everything that was going on and just the adjustment to change in general. And so I've really been thinking about reconnecting with friends and family that I have had issues with. In the process of dealing with painful things, right? Of course, we like, fuck them. Like, I don't care. I don't ever want to talk to them again, blah, blah, blah. But specifically with family, I've had a lot of thoughts, about just them not understanding where I was completely. And let's be honest, I didn't understand where I was completely. Coming out of depression, having emotional needs that people just did not understand and could not meet. And so I've been thinking about that subtle space when people realize that you need something that they don't have to give, right? Or we go through it ourselves, right? Where I don't care if it's in any type of relationship. It can be a family relationship. It can be a romantic relationship. Sometimes people need things that are just outside of you. And I know that when I left with this feeling that people felt very entitled to me and just who I was and just my energy, my love, everything. And I didn't feel like it was being reciprocated. But a lot of good morning, my love. It's my brother, y'all, Zeke. A lot of that entitlement also was infused with people not understanding that I just had needs that were beyond them, or needs that they just could not meet, specifically family. And the more that I got the space and the room to just acknowledge my own shit, just deal with my own stuff, that clarity started to come, and I was able to connect with others, others in my family, extended family, others in my life who were able to help me push through these moments, you know? And so, you know, and part of what I was also able to realize, because again, you know, what a person does with that subtle space is really their business, you know, like it's not to be taken personally, you know, like this is what we talk about with boundaries. And you know, we hear that word a lot these days. At least I do. That's what's all up in my timeline. It really does depend too on, you know, what you're tuned into. Because a lot of times I'm talking to my dad about things and I'm thinking about, he's like, yeah, you know, I don't even think these people understand that language. Understanding, you know, exactly what a boundary even is. You know, it's not to be taken personally. You know, there's some things that I must honor, you know, in this phase of reconnection. Definitely, you know, like one of my aunts that I was very close to for a while, I've been thinking about, you know, reaching out to her. In fact, somebody texted me this morning, and a part that can be interesting about this as well is that, you know, people can kind of be where you left them, you know, like a lot of those people that I disconnected from, again, I was in this state of depression, in a state of just being really unhappy and not having my needs met. And sometimes that's exactly where they think you still are. And so this person who reached out to me this morning, you know, they sent me this Bible verse about being your authentic self, and you know, you can be yourself. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I am myself. You know, that's definitely how I feel. I feel like I have the space to do that now. And in the past, I would have definitely taken it personally. Like, what the fuck is she talking about? She don't even know where I'm at right now, you know. But the reality is she doesn't know, you know, and we have to reconnect with who we are now. And how do I gently bring her into the space that I am now? And don't get me wrong, we won't be able to do this with absolutely everybody. So I'll get to the things that I want to honor, you know, in this phase of reconnection. One is that I am not responsible for anyone else's self-talk. When we do things, we try to do them with respect. You know, we try to do them, try to speak to people, you know, with respect, making sure, but we're not responsible for everything they freaking feel, you know, especially in this day and age of online and people getting so quickly offended. Like, that's why, again, I'm such an advocate for working on self, because people ain't gonna like everything you freaking do. They're not gonna agree with everything you say. Thank you, Ziki. They're not going to agree with everything you say. They're not going to have your experience. They're not going to come from your background. And again, you know, it shows a lot about if we're able to have these intense conversations, and conversations with people that we don't agree with and people that come from different backgrounds. Like, it starts to deal with the self. And so I'm not responsible for anyone else's self-work. If the fact, again, that you don't have what I need bothers you that much to the point where we can't connect anymore, that's an issue, you know, for that person. So again, you know, I'm always willing to step into these conversations with people, especially people that, again, I've had conflicts with. I'm not going to say that I've had no responsibility whatsoever in the scenario. It's not about, you better take accountability, but it does take, which goes to my next point, that healthy relationships have safety and trust, okay? And so, you know, part of my understanding, good morning, part of my understanding is that a lot of the relationships that I left in the past were with people who were like me and did not understand really the qualities of these really healthy relationships. A lot of them were codependent. A lot of them were attachment. And they're not, you know, again, this is not calling people bad people, because we all have different reasons and different backgrounds and things that have gone on in our lives that make us think like, okay, this is just normal. But normal doesn't always mean it's healthy, right? And so when we come into that space and start to try to reconnect, that means that they're reconnecting with a person that's has a much more healthy dialogue going on within themselves. And they may not be able to meet me there because they may not have been doing that work themselves, which is also okay. But again, we talk about good morning. We talk about vibrating higher. We talk about, like, I'm not coming down. You know, I'm not going to turn back into the person that you knew for your comfort. Now, you're more than welcome to reconnect with this person that I am now. And again, you know, it will allow that person as well to be able to speak up about things that may have been offensive to them. Because a lot of times, too, we try to play hard, try to act like things didn't bother us, try to act like it was cool. Oh, it's cool. It's not cool. It's not cool. You know, when there's conflict in relationships, that means that both people have experienced something that may not have been pleasant or something that didn't meet their expectations or whatever. So healthy relationships have safety and trust. You should be able to come into, and that means all relationships. Again, I tend to think that people really do focus on romantic relationships as if that's who you should be bringing your best self towards. But let's be real. You're bringing this self to every relationship, whether that is a working relationship, a romantic relationship, a family relationship, and your love language is going to be very similar in each one of those. So you have to know what you need. I know what I need now. And again, if that person doesn't have what I need, that's not going to change what I need as an individual. What's something that I need? I need to be able to be emotional because I am a person who has dealt with traumas in life. I don't walk around here like a victim, but I also am not going to just denounce them, pretend like they aren't there to make people comfortable. I need to be able to express myself. I need to be able to say when I'm triggered. I'll give you an example. And yes, you agree with that, Miss Nikki. I'll give you an example that, you know, for the longest time, my mother and I had really deep issues. They're still there, but we have worked really hard on them, and she has met me where I am as well. I've met her where she is, and that work is being done on both sides. And what I realized is that I had a lot of relationships with women who were older than me. And there was something in there with me trying to fill a void. And the more that I worked on that relationship, the more it started to displace those women in my life. And again, because my need is really beyond you, you know, like I have the friendship with you, but my need is really to deal with the relationship with my mother. And so a lot of those women weren't, even when I tried to reconnect, you know, at different points. And again, I'm not saying I did it all right, but it was a challenge. You know, it's almost like some people just need to be needed. And if you don't need them in that way, then they just don't even really know what to do with themselves. And again, I mean, that's how they feel. I still love them as an individual. I still love hanging out with them, you know. So you're not responsible for somebody else's, how they feel about themselves. So then that brings me to the next point. All will not be willing to meet me where I am. I go into these conversations and these situations knowing exactly that I was listening to a young lady by the name of Yasmin Cheyenne that I follow on Instagram. She's really awesome. And she was talking about that people will always show up as themselves, you know, like even though you may have grown and changed and evolved and you're ready to have this conversation, I am going into this knowing with no expectation that this person has changed, only to share and exchange with them, you know, as I am now. They are going to show up as themselves. So again, it's no judgment that you're still, I mean, you're very much you. You should be you. You should be authentically you. But again, that does not change that we may not be a fit for each other in this space. Or all we can do is try to reconnect from here. No judgment. They're going to be themselves. My family, they're going to be themselves, you know. Um, and everybody should be. But again, we should feel safe and we should have trust, you know, that we can be those selves and that we're loving each other exactly the way that we are instead of loving our expectations. So that shit ain't cool. And nobody can do that. Like, who wants to keep going into spaces pretending? That means that you never get to feel secure and safe, that you are just loved for being yourself. With your damage, your flaws, you know, whatever. Why do you have to go into a space and pretend? It's not cool. It's just not. And so, also something that I must honor is being mindful of what connections were built on in the first place. So that goes back to understanding, you know, things like codependency. So we use that word, but okay, what's an example of codependency? Well, you know, maybe maybe both of us connected in the first place because we was both going through a terrible breakup, and you know, it was nothing but negativity going on. Maybe an example with one person that I'm thinking of that I had a conflict with is in our professional lives, both of us felt like we were kind of outside and we wanted to penetrate the inner circle, you know, and it was more of an antagonist kind of thing. Like, we both wanted to be like, no, you gonna let me in this bitch, you know, and we worked hard to do so. But that was, so what I know now, and we had a great bond. Like, that was just the space that I was in at the time. But I don't want to go, me personally, where I am now, I don't want to be in any spaces where I have to particularly infiltrate. I want to know that I belong there. In fact, I come in knowing that I belong there in the first place. I don't need to manipulate. I don't need to particularly charm. You know, I come with skills. I come with a background. I come with a confidence. And I know what I'm doing, you know, and I'm always willing to get better. I'm always willing to connect with more people. But I don't go feeling as an outsider in the first place. And so, you know, that may be something that that particular person still struggles with. That's just not where I am. So, you know, we just don't have a need for each other in that space. So just understanding that, you know, helps me to really just know that, again, if we can't move past a point, what our relationship was rooted in the first place. Even with family, you know, I am my mother's daughter, you know, and that's what a lot of people base that relationship on. I'm my mother's child, but I am an individual myself. You know, I have a whole another side of my family. I have qualities. They have to get to know who I am now. So it is what it is. And so the next point, things that I will honor, you know, in this phase of reconnection, there is that I have more space in my life to grow. And I think that was what I needed more than absolutely anything. Again, I was feeling like people so pulled, you know, like you have to play this role for this person, especially when you're a service provider. You know, I was a makeup artist. And, you know, just people feeling like you should be doing things for them. I needed space to do things for myself. And I finally have that space. It has been more than rewarding. It has been exactly what I needed. In fact, that person that reached out to me this morning, that's exactly what I shared with her, is that, yeah, I finally have the emotional, physical, mental space to be me, you know, to embrace me and just kind of deal with my needs. And when those needs are met is when I can come out and try to reconnect, you know. You have a little bit more to give. One thing I wrote yesterday is really understanding that people give from a place, people only share from a place of abundance, right? And when you really break that down, you know, and you think about anybody that you're having a conflict with, You know, whether that's your man, he say, you know, I need more of your time. You know, I need more of your love. I need more of your money. I need more of anything. People share from a place of what they had. They share from that space, right? And so if I'm asking you for something, that probably means that I don't have a lot to give. Now, sent a question. Okay, let me check it. Other than compassion, any advice on handling resentment? Yeah. I'm going to answer that one before I go to the next one. My advice on resentment is to be patient with that process. And I know it sounds very cliche. But you are allowed to feel the way that you feel. Good morning. And I don't encourage suppression in that type of way. A lot of, especially for me, I was very resentful of people for quite some time. People who did things to me, people who hurt me. But again, I needed the space. I'm here. I'm away from them. I needed the mental space to even be able to process that pain. And you have exactly however long you need to take to do that. Just give yourself time, you know, and give yourself time to feel the emotions that are genuinely there. I'm pissed off. I'm hurt. You know, they are there. I think so often we try to run away from those emotions, but dealing with them head on, and then not only dealing with just that person is the direct target of that emotion, but there's always underlying factors that go with that as well. So like I was saying, that I had a lot of women in my life who were like mother figures. You know, they were older than me. They were giving me advice, and they would do something. And then so when they hurt me, it was really just a trigger for things that I was dealing with emotionally with my mom all the time. So really, I'm just dealing with my mom over and over and over again. So the more that I can give myself that space and say, okay, this person hurt me, but you know, I think that space and time allows you to really process the things that are deeper than just that person, because it's never that person. You know, it's never really that person. It's the qualities. It's the nature of it. It's what they're bringing to the table. And so you just got to get to the root of what it is. And a lot of times we don't have the space. Again, we don't have that abundance of time. We don't have time to share. We don't have love to share. Maybe the love that I really need from you, I really have to be giving it to myself. You know, like, so that's kind of my response to that. I hope it answers the question. Other than compassion, how can we navigate resentment? That is, Miracle, you want to be in my life? You can. Come on, girl. Is it working? Why my button won't hit? Ugh. Well, I don't know why my it won't work, but I'm hitting the button. But yeah, so I got a few minutes left. One thing I wanted to bring up too is that especially when I left Charlotte, you know, and it was such a big buzzword, and it still is, you know, we use the word empath so much. And I've talked about this in the past too, that, you know, and even the lady who reached out to me this morning, she sent me something, and I didn't want to assume what she was sending me. You know, my dialogue, didn't want to take it personal. I asked her, you know, what made you think of me with this? She said, I felt you in my spirit. And my next question was getting ready to be, oh, well, what did you feel? You know, but I didn't take that route. And so I used to always say that I could really feel people's emotions. I still feel like I can. But I read something through all these, you know, Instagram therapy is what I'm going to call it. And the lady was saying that a lot of times, what we call being an empath is really just this heightened tendency to kind of scan other people for triggers, and what they could do to harm us at some point. Maybe you're not an empath. Maybe you had tons of trauma in your childhood and it just made you hypersensitive. And from that, for me personally, that brought me so much clarity and so much, because I am, I definitely think that it made me develop my empathic qualities a lot more. But I'll bring that full circle to what I was saying earlier about the fact that you are not responsible for anyone else's self-talk. Even if they're having negative emotions that you can feel, you're not always responsible for those. That person is responsible for the way they feel about themselves. And so my point is that I used to, like I said, embrace being an empath and feeling for other people and none of us have to do that. It's really just too much emotional work in a relationship. Again, you should be able to feel safe. You should be able to trust, in the relationship. And you should be able to do what you need to do to honor yourself. So even wrapping back to what you were saying about resentment, part of that is really releasing them from needing them to do things that you can do for yourself. I can love myself. I can be quiet with myself. I can feel beautiful. I don't need other people to make me feel that way. I can make myself feel that way. So, yeah, I think that's a big part of it. So I'm going to share my wild thought for the day. And, yeah, I'm all over the place, but it's cool. People only share from spaces of abundance. So part of that too, I think, even ties back into the resentment, that understanding that maybe that person just genuinely didn't have it to give. Even if we want someone to make us feel, make us feel loved in some type of way, want them to spend time with us, want them to compliment us, want them to, maybe they don't have it to give in the first place. The capacity is such a big word and something that I've had to really learn to understand. And again, because we all have factors, and the more that you do that work on self, I'll speak for myself, the more I did that work on myself, I could understand that there were things in my background that I hadn't even processed, I wasn't even thinking of, that I still deal with to this day, that were in my childhood, that were just in my upbringing. And it makes me who I am, So, and the person's not just going to get rid of that just because it's you. You might be the safest person in the world, the most harmless person in the world with the absolute best intentions. And that doesn't mean, again, that their self-talk is reflective of that. Their self-talk is based on their own experiences. And all that we can do sometimes is just continue to experience life and give them more experiences with you that help them kind of retrain their thought process in their relationship with you. So I think that's kind of wrapping it up and bringing it full circle. That's with reconnection as well, is are we both open to having more experiences that introduce you to who I am now? And that's a two-person situation. It's not all on me. It's not all on the other person. I can't just expect them to be reaching out and want them. It goes both ways. It really, really does. So either both people want to step into that phase of life. Good morning, darling. Or they don't. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's Tea and Wild Thoughts for the day. I welcome you to all of you who may be watching later, this afternoon, this evening. If you're watching now, I welcome you to follow I just changed the name, the Joy Taught Me page, where I will be sharing a lot more videos and tips I'm trying to commit myself to sharing at least something helpful and every day, whether that is a different herb, something that I take or have in my little repertoire, essential oils, crystals. I love you too. I love you too. Thank you. Thank you. This is a little workout outfit from Target. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to go to the gym every day this week because I got to see my man this weekend. And I was eating a lot of bullshit last week. So I'm trying to pull it together. Thank you so much, everybody who has continued to support me, who shows up to this conversation. I love y'all. I hope y'all have an amazing, amazing Tuesday and rest of the week. And I will holler at y'all later. Peace.